You're tapping on something that I think is really important in our field. We're dealing with probably one of the most polarizing healthcare service lines in all of healthcare, dentistry. We created a theme called Neon Carnival, and each office had to design what their practice was going to look like for the summer. We allotted a team lunch for whoever won, and it was an awesome team lunch, and we would bring in and cater for them. One of the things we created was an intranet. We call it Rodeo Mix, and it looks and feels like a standard Facebook page almost, and all the offices can post their content in there.
Welcome back to another episode of Dental Marketing Theory. I'm your host, Gary Bird. I'm the owner of SMC National, where we help offices just like yours level the playing field against the big guys out there so you can grow the way that you want. But you can't grow the right way if you don't actually know what you want. I'm really excited about today's episode because Dr. Sam Zarabi is going to be joining me. He's the CEO of Rodeo Dental, and we're going to be talking about how he's cracked the code on social media, doing it at scale for a DSO, and some of the tips that he's going to give you on how to do social media yourself for free and motivate your team. This is a really fun episode. You're going to want to stay tuned for this one. All right, we are live, and I get to do awesome things. I live a really awesome life, and it's because I get to talk to awesome people who are doing awesome things. And today, this is actually his second time coming on, Dr. Z, who heads up Rodeo Dental, and we're going to open up the hood of his practices, and he's going to share with us some of the background of how he's built out his marketing, which is really cool because they're doing it differently. Even they're doing it much differently than a lot of the dental practices out there, and the DSOs out there, I should say. So, Dr. C, why don't you tell us what you're doing for marketing right now that makes you guys different?
Thank you, Gary. And man, I always have a blast coming on your show. I think you bring on great topics, and you're doing some amazing stuff for the DSO and dental industry as a whole. So I'm Dr. Sam Zarabi. I'm with Rodeo Dental. We've got 47 large group practices throughout Texas, Arizona, and Colorado. About 200 amazing dental providers, 1,000 team members servicing patients every day in an amazing way. And we are single branded. And so with that, in building a brand, I think we're doing some really dynamic and interesting things on the marketing front, which is an area that I lead and I'm super passionate about.
Okay, so yeah, single branded is important to bring up, right? So before I hit record, I brought up a name like a big DSO like Heartland. Heartland has a bazillion brands, so they can't really ever do a singular marketing campaign. Everything's always going to be a separate campaign versus like an Aspen Dental can do marketing because and I'm not comparing you guys to Aspen. Obviously, you guys are very different, but you're a single brand, which allows you to do some things from a marketing perspective. So what are some things that you're doing because you have a single brand that maybe the other DSOs or other groups that have multiple brands couldn't ever do?
Yeah, and by the way, both can be great tracks. I think for me personally, growing up, I always loved studying great brands that I was a fan of, whether it would be Disney or a Zappos or different brands that we connect to based on maybe an experience or service they provide, or the marketing just really stands out. And I think where you can converge those two worlds of experience and marketing, I get really excited about. So for us, taking the brand and bringing life to it, right? To where the brand is bigger than just the letters and the words. And how does that come through, right? In an energy for us being what we want to have is something that reflects positivity, high energy. When you walk into a rodeo, you're not going to hear elevator music or classical music. You're going to feel like you're walking into something that's upbeat, fun, and that's going to come through in the experience. And then my role in the marketing side is to bring that experience to life so that it translates in the marketing. And so a lot of things that we do, I think that really make us stand out is our content, right? Creating engaging content, distributing it on all the channels, and making sure that the audience is seeing who we are.
Yeah, and that's unique for dental because there's one, again, if you have a bunch of different brands, you can't do that. But also there's risk involved with that, right? So as you start to create content and you want to be different, some content people don't like from a dentist, or they love it and it goes insane. So what kind of content has really worked for you guys?
Well, first of all, I got caught. Look, you're tapping on something that I think is really important in our field. We're dealing with probably one of the most polarizing healthcare service lines in all of healthcare, dentistry, right? You either hate the dentist, like hate, or you love the dentist, right? And most of the time it's hate. Before people would meet you, I meet somebody on a plane. Oh, what do you do? I'm a dentist. Oh, I hate the dentist. They don't even know who you are, right? There's that stigma, and so to that standpoint, I always was anti like stock images or like all the marketing that I saw growing up around my dad and my peers and all these. You would see it was all the same stuff, stock image, dentist in the office, pointing at and it was all like the same basic repetitive stuff over and over again. And so we wanted to stand out as a brand. And in order to do that, I felt like we had to create our own content. And so we have a videographer team. We have a team within the regions that we source content from our practices. We encourage content to be cultivated and created. We'll create little templates and give them ways to do it. But our goal is we want the brand to stand out and the people within the local practices to stand out. And so to do that is by creating high engaging short video content, high impact, specific stuff around. Before it was more photos. Today's world, it's more short, high impact video and quantity, but it's got to be high quality and quantity. And then so that you can push it on the different social media channels and get the audience going.
How do you? So this is one of the hardest things to scale is content for DSOs. Most DSOs, there's huge DSOs out there. They still can't do it, right? And so you guys have kind of cracked the code on that. How have you done that at scale? I heard that you kind of created the templates and pushed it down at the level. Like, how do you motivate your team to create that content? And some doctors, you already know because you've talked to them. I've asked my team to do the videos. They won't do the videos, right? Like I'll tell you a crazy story, Dr. Z. People pay me to make videos for them and then they won't make the video. The doctors won't. They're like, no, never mind. I don't want to do it, right? So how are you motivating the team?
Yeah, I think doctors are going to be doctors, and I respect that. I get it. Some are going to want to do it. And I am totally with that thinking because we're technicians by trade, and so it's a little different. So I think first thing what we did was we would model what we want it to look like. So we would focus on the ones that are doing it and want to do it, and then we would bring that to light and highlight it like on you came on one of our town halls. We started to then put contests and things that would highlight what good looks like and then build around that. And so we never get 100% participation. I think but if I can get a majority to, and then I start to build around it and some of that to reflect regionally, then I think that really works well. Got one going right now. We'll buy a team lunch. We had one this summer. We created a theme called Neon Carnival, and each office had to design what their practice was going to look like for the summer, experience, right? And so we allotted a team lunch for whoever won, and it was an awesome team lunch. And we would bring in and cater for them, and they get to throw a little party. One of the offices went insane. This thing looked like it was straight out of an amusement park. How amazing they made it. Patients were given great reviews. Like they got behind the whole experience. And it was because one team member who wasn't a doctor, he was a young dental assistant that just grew up doing art and liked doing art. And so from a passion play, he just wanted to do it because he enjoyed doing it and the team got behind him. And so I would encourage you to look within your teams. It's not always the doc. You may have a star in there that can really galvanize this thing and take it to a whole new level and make it something special. We also have a belt, by the way. We've got a belt, like a wrestler's belt, like a championship wrestler's belt. People go nuts for it.
So whoever does the best video gets the belt. They get, and then you move it office to office. Yeah. So you might lose the belt too, right? Yeah. So you need to keep making. Okay. So you've truly gamified it. You've rewarded people. You call them out publicly and celebrate what good looks like. And then there's also the traveling belt. I love that. Now, on the flip side of that, so let's say I already know doctors are listening to this, and I know because I own a company and I create a lot of content, but I'm always controlling the message, right? Like I'm always the guy that's like, no, we're not saying that. Yes, we're saying that. How do you, because the good thing about social media is you can go viral, and viral is good because you get a lot of eyeballs on you. But the bad thing about social media is you can go viral. and that virality can get your business shut down, or people are like, we're not ever coming to your business again because your front desk person believes X and said it, right? Whatever that may be. How do you control that? Or like, how do you, because that's scary. That can be scary.
Yes, and luckily we learned that lesson early when we only had a few practices. So, I respect that very much. So what we did was, one of the things we created was an intranet. We call it Rodeo Mix, and it looks and feels like a standard like Facebook page almost, and all the offices can post their content in there. And so what we do is every month we're looking at what's coming in through Rodeo Mix, and it goes there first. Yes, yes, and we'll then distribute it out, to make sure. And over time, the team's gotten so much better at it. You know, the first stuff that was coming in, it was like the photo was you're like, or they would send you 1,000 photos, and you had to go in. And over time, what they've gotten better at is, hey, highlighting the best stuff. But yes, we have a way to distribute it before it goes out. So you can. And by the way, before we had Rodeo Mix, here's another a tip for you for our teams out there. You might say, "Well, doc, I don't have time to go create an internet." We just created an email, and it was just life@rodeodental.com. And so everybody could submit their content to that email to Life at Rodeo, and then my team would then go in and we'd cultivate, and you put your practice name at the top and then what it is. And that's another way that's a really simple, quick to kick off way to get the content engine going.
Yeah, that's awesome. And there's a ton of ways you could do it, right? If you have, you could do a Facebook group that's private with just your offices. You could even, if you're a single practice, just do a text feed. Say, hey, all of the people, we're going to do a contest today. Submit all your videos here on this private text feed, and that also helps you. Even if your team's super safe and not saying the wrong things or doing things that are going to get you canceled, you still have HIPAA. You have all these other things that you got to worry about as well.
I'm so glad you brought that up. And we actually have a part of our policy in our patient forms when they enter, when they start with us. There's a whole HIPAA policy around social media and all those things, and they get to check the box if they want to be a part of it or not. Most taxi patients do, and they accept, but you do get some that don't, and that's absolutely their right. And so you must have that. I would highly make sure you recommend that they have something in place documentation wise to protect that.
I love that. So everybody, when you come in as a new patient, you're filling out the form and it forces you to say yes or no on that question. It's not just a disclaimer in there, right? That's smart, because then if they hit no, it's like, okay, they hit no, and then you just have to be careful. The office has to be careful. But if they say yes, then it's like, okay, pretty much everything's fair game at that point.
And they love it because when they say yes, most of them get excited. You know, if let's say we do something for somebody getting their braces removed and the celebration, well, that patient shares that with all of their friends in their network, right? And now you're getting organic drive from just the content that you're generating that's getting extra legs on it.
That's so awesome. I love that. Okay, so now that you have this machine, right? So you invest in marketing, especially when it's branding. So a lot of what we're talking about today is like branding stuff. So branding's great. It's exciting. It's the marketing that everybody loves, but it's one of the hardest things to track on, like, is it working, right? Because you measure eyeballs and attention, but those eyeballs and attention may or may not turn into customers. I've had stuff go viral. I have videos that have gotten 8 million, 10 million views, but did nothing. Like it wasn't even in dental. So it's like, it was about AI, right? It was about like AI and stuff, and not even AI dental stuff. It was just AI in general. And so it was great, but it didn't move the needle for my business. I've had other things that had 500 views that sent me, dozens and dozens of customers that were very impactful. So how do you measure that? Because you're a little bit later stage of the game now. How do you kind of think through that, and has that changed over time?
Yeah, and this is something. Look, even in today's environment, as we've grown, we're trying to tackle. So, yes, how we convert. Absolutely agree with you. This is a call out. You can have the best content in the world, and it's still not actually converting to appointments or people showing up and sitting in the chair. So, what I would say is, one, you have to have a frictionless patient journey and a very clear action to what they're going to do as a result of the content. For example, defining what the content is first and foremost. Some stuff's just going to be for social media and awareness, and it's just there. It's silly, it's educational, whatever, and it's not going to drive anything except then you are going to have stuff that's intentional on paid social, paid search that is going to ask for an action, which is to book an appointment or book a call, one of those two, and you need to be able to track those. And so that way, with the dollars you're spending, you can track it all the way down to the phone call or the appointment. And so even right now, we're looking at restructuring our whole patient journey online to make it more frictionless and ease of use so that with two buttons, you got an appointment, you're ready to go. And that's hard in today's world. Even then you add in like all the Google algorithm changes and how they can affect the website and consistently studying that. Um, I think you got to be on your toes at all times.
Yeah, totally agree. One strategy that I've heard and seen that, especially for what you guys are doing, and I would love your thoughts on it, is you go out and you create a ton of content, and then you find your best 10 pieces that performed. And then you take those 10 pieces and you turn them into ads because you already know the message resonates. Then you figure out how to run those on ads because you already know that they're going to perform well to your avatar. And then you turn them into ads and you have to tweak them a little bit, but you make those ads. Have you guys kind of played around with that at all?
Yeah, 100%. I think you're reading a little bit of our playbook there, but that's another piece. You're right. Because again, you have the testing ground on your social platforms, Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, to push out a lot of the stuff you're trying. And then you're right, because I can't predict what goes viral or what, like, it's the weirdest stuff. Something like is, and you're like, really? That I thought this would. But that's your testing ground. And so then you can take that. And if you're across multiple geographies, you can take those specific pieces and either dial them up into local ads or broader, cross campaign ads across the entire network.
That's so awesome. Any other tips for people out there? Here, I'll frame this a little bit deeper. So a lot of the people that we work with, they're going to be single location, 2-3 locations. They're busy. Like social media is like way low on their list, right? Like they got like profitability. How do I get my cost of goods down? How do I track my revenue properly? There's a whole laundry list of things that are immensely more important than social media. And so a lot of times it's just like, I need more new patients. So we do a lot of like direct response marketing to get new patients right away. But social media does play a role, right? Like there is a place for it. What would be your advice to people out there about social media, especially around the kind of content that you guys are creating? When is the right place? Like when's the right time? And when would you say, you know what, don't even worry about it right now. Focus on other things.
I think you should be worried about getting in. If you're not doing anything, you're not part of the conversation and where the conversations are happening and where the decision making is happening in the communities, right? And so that's where patients are going to make the decision. They hear about you wherever you're marketing, whether it be, on a billboard, on radio, or meeting somebody word of mouth. They're still going to go to your social media, your Instagram, and go, well, who is this person? What do they look like? What does it feel like? And so if this is something that's a stretch for you as the doctor practice owner, what I would tell you is there is somebody in your team, in your office, who is good at it, who knows how to do it, who has that natural ability. And so look within your team first and don't let perfect be the enemy of good. Put some stuff out there. Just get the engine going so that you can see what works and what doesn't, but at least you're putting the content out. And I see too many times people try to over perfect it versus putting out, because guess what? In a couple days, it's already forgotten. Like the attention span is so quick that by the time you're thinking, is this piece gonna, if I'd use this word or that, you're already lost. Just keep going. So that would be and I've been there, right? Yeah.
Yeah, I when I started making content for myself and my company, I just decided one day I was like, I'm going to make a bunch of videos. I actually set a goal of 3, and I started on one platform. So I just said, I'm only doing this platform, and I'm just going to make content until something pops. And it was what's interesting is I always told myself this: I don't care what other people think. Until I started making content, I realized that was the biggest fat lie ever, because I was like, what are they going to think? 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 And then I had to really work through that. Like, oh, I really do actually care. I care how people think about me a lot. And until you post on social media, like, and the same is true for a brand. Like, I don't care what people think about my brand. You actually really do. And when you start posting on content, it actually reveals that. And you have to kind of work through that emotionally a little bit. And the only way to do that is if you're doing content at scale, meaning all the time. Now, here's what's really cool about these apps. It's super easy to post. Like, they make it frictionless. But where I see people mess up the most is like, I love your advice of like, find somebody in your auspice to help. My one caveat I'd out on there, just pick one platform, probably TikTok or Instagram or wherever it's easier, because what pops on TikTok doesn't pop on Instagram, does pop on Facebook, doesn't work on LinkedIn, super hard to put on YouTube. That gets really, Twitter, it gets so confusing and so hard. Do you have a favorite platform on that front?
Yeah, right now TikTok has been awesome for us as the newer one, but Instagram and TikTok are our two largest for the brand. And then, for me personally, like LinkedIn obviously is my stronger suit, but I think you're right. Every brand, by the way, is going to have different, you may have a super high-end cosmetic brand that might play better on Instagram versus TikTok, or you may have a really cool braces, so I think you have to understand
who your avatar is, right? So can you walk through that really quickly? Like, your avatar, you are a certain kind of office, you're trying to attract a certain kind of patient. Why does TikTok and Instagram work better for you?
Yeah, I think if we break down our practices, which is for families and kids, I think there's two audiences that we're talking to. Sometimes you can break it down to three, but we've got parents, right, as decision makers, and a lot of times it's the moms. Yeah, right. So in that case, then we're talking to them, and a lot of times they're on Instagram as a dominant force. On the flip side, we do a lot of braces and orthodontics, and so the teenage audience and where all the cool kids are, TikTok is definitely a part of that conversation. And so a lot of times they're driving the decision making in the household, and so we want to make sure the brand is highlighting and engaging from their standpoint as well. And so I think understanding those two and creating content that fits both works for us. And then we'll create a framework too. And by the way, the AI piece has also been a huge boost and help. If you're having a hard time writing copy and coming up with frameworks and things like that, throw some ideas into the AI platforms, and they'll give you all the right ideas on where you want.
They'll give you too many ideas, right? Like, it's just like, it's overwhelming almost. That's such good advice. Yeah. And the other thing, go copy people, right? Like, and I don't mean like verbatim copy them, but just like, if something's working, go copy it and just like create your own spin on it. Do it yourself, especially if you're a doctor. I feel like doctors like yourself, Dr. Z, like that can communicate well and are comfortable just like talking on camera. That's such a huge advantage because you can just go create the content yourself. And if you can't, that's okay. Get somebody. You made a really good point. I just want to drive it home one more time before we wrap this up. There's someone in your office that loves posting on social media, and they would consider it a dream job if you gave them 1 hour a day to post on social media. They'd literally go brag about it to their friends. Am I lying?
No, you're absolutely. And actually, what's crazy, we've had instances where we've had team members where they've got huge followings, like thousands. And I'm like, we just do this for fun. And I'm like, this is incredible. Like, will you post for us? They're like, yeah, I'd love to. Nobody just even asked. And so like, you don't know what talent's there until you actually look under the hood, like you asked.
That's so awesome. If someone wants to learn more about what you're doing and the content that you're posting and things like that, what's the best way to connect with you or follow you guys?
Yeah. For me personally, you can check me out on LinkedIn or message me on there, but Instagram for Rodeo Dental's Instagram, and on TikTok as well. Those are where you're going to find our most entertaining form of content right now. We're testing some new stuff out these last few months, and I have to say it's pretty awesome. Like, check it out and let me know what you think.
Awesome. I'm going to definitely do that. I've looked at your content, but not the brand new stuff. So I'm actually going to go check that out.
Yeah, I'm telling you, you're going to love it.
Awesome. I'm going to literally stop recording right now and go check that out. You guys go do the same. Thank you so much for coming on today. You did an amazing job.
Gary, thank you, brother.